About this drive earlier today from Will Brown, 22nd yesterday in qualifying, secures his first pole. And for Coca-Cola Erebus racing here today, Brock Feeney grabbing the second pole. 2 races to come up here today at the Bosch Power Tools Perth Super Sprint. Cracking qualifying sessions. Talbot rolls into some brilliant racing here this afternoon. And coming up in just over an hour or so time here. And there's the pole position car going back into the garage right now. What a team they've been. They've come out swinging, haven't they? Coca-Cola racing by Erebus, both he and Brody Kostecki, who finished on the podium yesterday. Looking for a good result here today with 1.5 hours before they hit the track. But for now, Craig Lowndes alongside me for race 2 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. And the pro drivers starting today's race. This is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, good morning, Matt Nolting. Good morning, everyone out there. It's a great day here. And yeah, yesterday we saw a cracking race after 60 minutes of racing with the GT category. It got really tight, especially between Christopher Mears and Jamie Whincup. That was a great battle going on for most of that race. And as you said, these guys now the pros start this race. And we'll talk through, obviously, the time difference in the pit stops. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the sense of a little bit of artificial positioning before we get through that rotation of pit stops, because it's a frustrating thing as a race driver sitting in that pit lane, as you can see there, which was the original one for such a long time in this category. 87 seconds is the mandatory pit stop time that all the cars had to perform. If you finished in the top 3 in your respective category yesterday, you got 15, 10 and 5 added to that. It was the first win for Porsche since 2019 at the 12 hour. And of course, their first win in the GT World Championship since back in 2018. Supercars season guides available right now. Head to superstore.v8sleuth.com.au. Over 200 pages and all the information you need for the Supercars Championship this year. It gives you all the tracks, the stats on the drivers and the teams, and including Super 2 and Super 3. Head to superstore.v8sleuth.com.au and grab your copy today, or if you're at the track, grab it here. Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is going to be really interesting. This category does a rolling start, so you'll see them taking off now as they cycle around this warm-up lap. And you can see that nice green Porsche there, which took out the lead, or took out the win yesterday, but it faded late in the race. And the Audis were very strong on the opening stage of the 60-minute race yesterday, but really didn't have much at the end, where then the Mercedes, they weren't really strong at the beginning of the race, but they come on strong at the end. So, again, fascinating. A lot of different configurations of these cars. The Porsche being a flat 6 rear engine configured, the Audi being a V10 mid-engine, and then that Mercedes big V8 in the front of it. And I know from experience driving all these categories, all these cars in this category, the Mercedes is got a long bonnet. It's amazing how far back you sit on it, sit in the car, and then the Audi, you almost feel like you're sitting on the nose of it. So it is interesting, the different makes and models, and of course they've got the BOP, or the balance of power, and they have a little restrictor that they put in the air intake to make up the difference.
Beautiful day here once again in Western Australia. A bit of cloud earlier today, but the sun is beaming down. And we'll see Maxi Hoffa starting in the 65 car today that he shares with Liam Talbot. We've got the 88 Mercedes starting alongside on the front row, and then the 24 Audi on the second row here today. So if you didn't start yesterday's race, you're starting today. So the guys that started yesterday's race will bring it home for the final stages. Liam Talbot led for the early parts of this race yesterday, and they're nice and close here as the safety car pulls away. And of course, this car was in the war, so they were looking unstoppable until Talbot got himself into trouble. That car ultimately would retire, but it really spiced up this race. As the second race of the weekend in round 2 of Fanatec GT World Challenge is underway. And just like they were rolling down to turn number 7, they stay like magnets into turn number 1. You can't stay out that way for too long. And in the end, Maxi Hoffa will take the lead through the first set of turns. Jordan Love slots himself in a second position as they get back into single file. You couldn't stay too wide there forever.
Oh, absolutely not. And I think that definitely on the start, Christopher Mears was really a bit smart. He actually hung back. He had a good momentum going into turn 1, but Jordan Love, he really got latched onto the back of Hoffa and really almost escorted Jamie wide, and then Jamie had nothing but to slot back into third. So race is now going, first lap underway, and you can see there Hoffa just still trying to get tyre temp. It's a cooler morning than what they raced yesterday, so again, tyre temp is going to be an issue, tyre wear will be a massive issue, and again, as I said yesterday, we saw a very different speed variations over the course of this 60-minute race.
So Garth Walden making the move down there on Paul Stokel, who starts the KFC Audi today. That's up into 10th position now as we start the second lap. So as much as it was a bad day yesterday for the Shannon's insurance team, today they only have to do the minimum amount of pit stop time of 87 seconds. So they could be in a good position. That first 4 laps of Talbot yesterday was blistering.
Oh, absolutely. And there's no doubt he's got great experience, Liam Talbot, in these cars. You can see Jordan Love, he's a local boy. He's done some many laps around this circuit. He's on fire at the moment. You can see him flashing headlights. And that, again, that's just trying to distract Hoffa, especially in the braking zone, just trying to detract his concentration. But of course, he's a very seasoned campaign. He comes from international, knows these cars very well. And again, the strength of the Audi, what we saw yesterday, was under brakes. They were so strong under brakes. Christopher Mears was really attacking Jamie Whincup yesterday in that braking zone. So not surprising that he's opened up a bit of a gap. And there he is again. So this battle resumes from yesterday.
Looks like it never stopped. That went on for pretty much the final 30 minutes of yesterday's race between the Mercedes and the Audi. Christopher Mees, the 33-year-old German who was blistering in practice and qualifying here on Friday and Saturday morning. They head on down towards turn number 6 here. So a 1-hour race. The time started counting down when they rolled away from the grid. Pit stop window opens with 35 minutes to go here. And as we said, 87 seconds is a mandatory pit stop time for everybody. But your winner yesterday, the #1 Porsche, they'll have 102 seconds, an extra 15 seconds of stationary time down there in the pits. It's a great view looking down to turn number 7 and shows you how high the top of the track is there. It really is a fun track.
It is a great track. It got a very fast run down to that last corner. You can see again, Christopher Mees trying to use the benefit of that Audi, which is under brake. Oh, it gives him a little love tap in the middle of the corner as well. You've got to be careful. A lot of little winglets and a lot of aerodynamic on the front of all these cars, and they do rely on a lot more aero flat bottom. So again, they don't use the curbs. They don't want to get air underneath the car at any stage. We've seen over the course of the last couple of days, as soon as they do hit a curb, the car starts to bounce and then, of course, lose the downforce, and then you lose the benefit for what these cars are designed. They've got traction control, they've got ABS, so they've got all the aids they need. Again, you can see Christopher Mees, he's trying to find a way around Jamie really quick because he knows he's got more speed than what Jamie's got at the moment. But then right behind them was Richie Stanaway in the second of the AMG Mercedes, and he was lightning fast yesterday in the closing stages. He was closing that gap. At one stage there, it was over 8 seconds in, and then about sort of 5-10 laps later, it was down to just under 3. So he was really quick yesterday, Richie Stanaway.
And those Pirelli tyres really stood the test, didn't they? Yesterday he was thrashing that car towards the latter stages. We stay with our 3rd and 4th place battle here as they climb up to the S's and into turn number 4. This race starts to settle in with just over 52 minutes to go. Here's how it looked with the rolling start on the charge to turn 1.
You can see there, Hoffa comes across, just tries to block. And see Jordan Love there, right down the inside, right up underneath. A little bit of a bump and run there from Richie Stanaway. But Jaden Ojeda just actually got a little bit sideways off the exit there. You can see in the background, just clipping the inside curb, just couldn't get the traction down. And again, even though these cars have got ABS and traction control, they've still got cold tyres. And then Ojeda just wide again, and then Richie Stanaway says, thank you very much, I'll take your spot, and then got going. So
Stanaway was having his own moment there just before the SS. This is the bump from Christopher Mees on Jamie Whincup into 1. Enough of a push to get his attention anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be doing that too much with those cars, or these cars. Again, as I said, very much highly reliant on the aerodynamics. And then look at that already. Hoffa now is just starting to light up the timesheet. Fastest in that first sector. He's got a 1.2 second gap now over Jordan Love. You can see they're all just starting to settle down a little bit now. We've all got the tyre temps, we've got the brake temps, and the drivers have now got a bit of temp in them as well.
Climbing the hill, nice one. And down the hill to turn number 7. This race starts to unfold. Hoffa, Love, Whincup, Christopher Mees, Richie Stanaway, and Jaden Ojeda, who had a fantastic run yesterday in the Harold's Volanti Rosso team. There is the background there, just behind the second of the KFC Mercedes, with Richie Stanaway behind the wheel right now. Jumps into the car with Ross Palakis after Sam Brabham steered with him at the first round of the series at Bathurst. We're going to see a second car which has been tested in the recent week or so over in South Australia for Chris Batsios, and Sam Brabham will come back to contest the next round at Phillip Island in May. So the Fanatec GT World Challenge starting to accelerate again as we come out the other side of what's been a really tricky couple of years. Healthy numbers at the first round, solid field here this weekend in the West.
Yeah, and this is a great track that suits these cars. Again, this circuit, although it only being 2.4 kilometres long, got great elevation, and elevation makes really character for any racetrack. One thing you don't want is to have a flat track, but again, just not only the elevation, but just it is a flowing circuit. It's only got 7 corners. Turn 7, which we're approaching now, is the slowest corner on the circuit. Heavy under brakes, but it actually has an incline right at the end there, so you actually pull the car up faster than you expect. And again, don't want to use that left-hand curb, the exit curb there, because it, again, detracts from the downforce of what these cars are designed for. So little bump into turn 1, you can see there, unsettles all these cars. Some choose to go a little bit more mid-track than trying to go right on the left-hand apron to open up the corner. This is a great little over the crest, into 4, long uphill left-hander. You can see how much will work. Then again, quick switchback, over turn 5, blind crest. Use a little bit of that left-hand curve, but it's a sawtooth. You don't want to be using too much of that. And then heavy braking down into the bowl, turn 6. You can see very different line dependent, depending on what the driver likes, whether you like to get in early or get out late, or run wide and then get in and get a good exit. And this over this crest, the run down to turn 7, I said, you pick up speed going down here. It's a really steep descent, and then it comes up again, heavy braking. And that right-hand inside curve at turn 7, do not want to use that. That's like a mountain.
Ditto that on the left-hand side. That was from Brett Hobson's perspective. I was watching the battle ahead between Stokel and Walden that was going on. It's really visual to see through the windscreen of the 96 Mercedes as Walden, who shares this car with Mike Sheargold and the Ram Motorsport team. Of course, Garth's been around for a long time with this category as well. Runs a fleet of cars across many categories out of the Sydney base. Paul Stokel, who handed over to Matt Stupas, another good combination in this year's Fanatec GT World Challenge. Through turn 6 they go. So Hoffa's lead, 2.6 seconds now to Love. Whincup another 1.5 seconds behind. Me still runs in 4th, 0.3 of a second behind. It's actually the biggest gap they've been all weekend between those two. We go back to Stanaway, Ojeda, Garnett, Patterson, who's in the race-winning car from yesterday, the Ben Motorsport Park Porsche for EMA Motorsports. Was their first win since the 12-hour, and the first win in the championship, Oz GT or the GT World Challenge at Sydney Motorsport Park in 2018. A long time between drinks for the famous German make.
And just watching this battle between Jamie and Chris Mears, they were a couple of tenths faster than Jordan Love, who's running in 2nd. So at the moment, this gap's starting to diminish between Jordan Love and Jamie Whincup. You can see there, that's something that's going to be really interesting, because as you mentioned, the Pirelli tyre's got to do 60 minutes, which is basically 60 laps around here, which is no mean feat. Now, the other interesting thing is because you run a Pro and a Pro-Am in these particular cars and the lead of this race. Yesterday, we saw the Am start the race, so they actually pitted on as early as they could when the pit window opened. It's going to be the reverse today. You're going to leave the Pro guys in these cars as long as they can, and then get the Ams in to run the home. So again, as you talk about Liam Talbot, Yasser Shahin, those guys, Jeff Emery, they're very well got great experience in these cars. So again, it's going to be a great battle. As I said, we've got to wait for the rotation of pit stops before we really know a true indication of where people are at.
By doing that too, you're running the risk of a safety car coming out in that window. We didn't have one yesterday. In fact, 60 laps completed in that 1-hour race. It's a little bull ring, that's for sure, compared to the bigger tracks of Bathurst or Phillip Island or the Bend over in SA. Certainly traffic plays a massive part. Some of the cars yesterday going at least 5 or 6 laps down during this race.
Well, the other interesting thing too, we saw, and if you didn't see the action yesterday, that Liam Talbot had some contact and actually had damage and actually ended up with a DNF. So we haven't actually seen Maxi Hoffa race yesterday. We didn't actually see the true speed of what that Shannon's Audi was actually going to perform, and you can see it right now. That last lap, he 54.0. Jordan Love actually has got now going at 54.1, Jamie 54.4. So again, as I said, didn't really see the true speed of that Audi yesterday, unfortunately, with that contact with Liam Talbot.
It looks today, from the early stages, Whincup's got the, I'll say, bad habits out, the supercar habits out of him. He was really attacking the curbs in this car yesterday, but he's toned that down, it appears, from this.
Well, you do. You spend so much time running around a racetrack. You got that muscle memory, and you want to position the car where you remember it being. He still uses that exit curb a little bit,
but everyone's doing that.
He's still got a bit of a habit of that side of it. You can see Christopher Mears trying to use the benefit of that braking of the Audi, the strength of that Audi. But can't quite get it done. But yeah, to that muscle memory. So you position the car where you remember it being. But of course, in a supercar, you're sitting on the other side of the race car, and then these cars are left-hand drive. So again, you just got to try and switch out your brain. And again, a supercar doesn't have ABS, doesn't have traction control. It's got a stick shift. It's got a sequential gearbox. These have got paddle shift, and that's something you just got to get out of your brain. This is again that little love tap for Christopher Mears on Jamie. Not as bad this time. But again, it's just that little hurry up, Jamie. We know what Christopher Mears, he'll be getting frustrated because he knows he's got more speed in that Audi than what he can show. The only downside is when you keep following cars, especially Jamie, who we know is very well experienced in the sense of where to position the Mercedes to not block, but just to make it hard for Christopher Mears, is all that hot air that's coming off the back of that Mercedes is going straight into the front of that Audi. So engine temp, tyre temp, brake temp, all those things are going to have a fact on Christopher following Jamie for such a long time.
Driver temp as well.
Well, yeah, there is that driver temp.
Right,
I did say that Christopher Mears was probably starting to get frustrated, and he'll want to get past. And not only that, but it's just knowing that when he hands the car over to Jeff Emery, that he'll want to put him in a good position.
They're rated by the fact they've got a 5 second shorter pit stop than the car ahead here as well. We'd like to get past at least and make a bit more of an advantage as Hoffa starts to extend down to 3.5 seconds and into the 53s. Lap time wise, pulls out for a phantom look here from the turn 7 region. 53.8, everyone else in the early 54s.
Sorry, I'm giggling myself because Jamie keeps hitting that curb. And again, it's just that muscle memory of what it feels like in a supercar. And again, in a supercar, they absorb all that stuff. And of course, you'll see later on in the races that a supercar will monster that curb right there and basically use every track, the parts of the track and some, to get a lap time, where again, these cars will not use any curb at all, except for that outside one over the crest at turn 5. You can see they stick well away from any curbs, using all that aero. And for Maxi Hoffa, he's doing a fantastic job. Again, faster in that first sector than anyone else. But again, these guys, Christopher Mears and those guys that come from Europe, they know the aerodynamics and how to maximise these cars. They sit inside these cars nearly all year round, every day, every year. And again, when they come to this side of the world, they come and play with our side of our racetracks, which we know really well. So it's a good mix between drivers that know the car and then for us, like Jamie, that knows the circuit so well.
Starting to get impatient, isn't he? Mears just behind. He had another phantom look down there, playing peekaboo in the mirror. The 888 Mercedes just ahead. That's McMillan going through in the shot right now. Those guys were caught up with Liam Talbot's crash yesterday. Just the 2 DNFs in race number 1. It's Paul Stokel. He's finally cleared away from Garth Walden. Brett Hobson coming through in 12th position, sharing this car with Mike Bailey. Michael Kokonos comes through to complete, doing solo duties, last year's GT Trophy champion. One of 3 crowns that Melbourne Performance Centre won in last year's Fanatec GT World Challenge. Come through the S's. They reprofiled that curb when they resurfaced the track, but for many years it was like a motorcycle jump, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. They used to get some great Oh, he's got it done. Christopher Mears now finally found a way past Jamie Whincup. This will be interesting to see whether he can pull away and use again the strength of the Audi, which is the braking zone. Looks like, yep, Mark Griffiths, he's running that GT4 Mercedes. So around the outside, Christopher goes. Jamie's trying to follow, which he does a nice job. Mark Griffiths is a very well campaigner. He knows how to get out of the way. And then look at that straight away. Christopher Mears down into turn 6. He'll be biting at the bit now to try and get it done. This is a replay. Around the outside. That's very impressive. Not really seeing too many cars do that around this part of this racetrack.
He was going around regardless of what Jamie Whincup wanted to do there into turn number 1. So the German's been released in the J-Mac racing car that he shares with Jeff Emery for the second half of the race.
So a little bit hard to know what speed that Christopher Mears has got at the moment. He did a 54.7 compared to Hoffa did a 54.0. So he was 7/10 slower than Hoffa, but he did have that lap traffic. So this will be a good indicator this lap to see how much speed he can extract out of this Audi. And as I said, he'll want to put Jeff Emery in a good position. I wouldn't be surprised if this next lap that he'll be closing that gap down to Jordan Love. Look at that. First sector just done. He's done his personal best, Christopher Mears. So he was a 10th faster than Love on that first sector. So he'll be, again, as I said, focused on trying to get to the back of that Mercedes before he hands. There's Jeff Emery. He hasn't got the helmet on, so they're still a little way away. In the shot there, that's Simon Poole, head of Pirelli here, and doing a great job. And basically, I spoke to Simon yesterday about the tyre wear and how the durability of the Pirelli was going to be around here, and he said it's all going to be fine. And I looked at him, and he gave me a little cheeky grin. So yesterday, no one had any issues, which was great. The Pirelli tyre did the 60 minutes, and as I said, Richie Stanaway was on fire at the closing stages. He was doing fastest laps at the end of the 60 minutes.
Well, yesterday's race was very entertaining, especially that last 15 minutes of racing for sure. As Mees starts to pull away from Whincup, Hoffa out to 4.5 seconds, and Mees went 53.8, and only 800ths away from the fastest lap of the race. 6.5 seconds behind our leader. So, Audi, Mercedes, top four with 38, making less than 39 minutes of racing. The pit stop window not too far away here as well, but expecting that to go a lot later than what we saw yesterday during race number 1. Romy Mayer in the foreground of the shot, who had a lot to do with the Super 2 program at 888 for many years, and comes a lot of experience from the DTM.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a great mix of people. There's the Prince looking on intensely. He'll be jumping in on board the Mercedes very, very soon. So he's in the 888 Mercedes, which has got Richie Stanaway running around there. You can see him right there. And now at the moment, this is very interesting. As I said yesterday, Richie Stanaway had good late race pace, and he's closing that gap up now to Jamie Whincup. There's the leader now just trying to file away and pass some back markers. So traffic's now going to come into play, which we talked about yesterday. So that last lap, just quickly looking at the lap times, Christopher Mears was 3/10 faster than Love and a couple of tenths faster than Hoffa. But again, as I said, the traffic and the back markers, it seesaws. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And of course, when you're the lead car, like Hoffa is at the moment, you're the pioneer. You're setting the benchmark. You're saying to all these people in front of you, going, all right, hello, get out of my way. Now the leaders are coming through. So what happens now is all these guys getting passed or getting lapped will go, all right, now we're in that danger zone in the sense of getting out and being aware of what's going on and keeping an eye on the rear vision mirror.
And more often than not, you catch the lap cars at the S's here.
At the wrong point of the track. And again, as I know as a driver, if you're in Maxi Hoffa's position, it's frustrating because you have worked so hard to get that 3.3 gap over Love. And you can see there, Christopher Mees, he's completely closed that gap now down onto Love. It's frustrating because you've worked so hard to open up that gap and get that advantage, then for it to see disappear so quickly.
He lost a second alone in that lap. Our leader, that is Max Hoffa. But this has helped Christopher Mees in bucket loads now because he's going to capture the Makita Mercedes just ahead with Jordan Love behind the wheel as they find the lap traffic on the way down to turn number 6. Gracie Samadi just ahead as well.
Well, Mears was 4/10 faster than Love that last lap, and they both had clean air, like a clean lap. So again, you're right. This is where it's going to be interesting. Oh, you see Jordan Love just trying to get the power on out of turn 6 and just a little bit sideways out of there, getting the drive, and this run down to turn 7. You can see how much Christopher's now closed up to the back of Love, and he'll use that benefit to be able to, there we go, straight away. So Jordan Love becomes the bull bar, and Christopher Mears just actually has a free run, knowing that Love has done all the hard work and opened up the door, and he just sort of files straight through.
So Love sharing this car with Tony Bates, and the Makita Mercedes-Benz flash the headlights now from Jordan as he climbs up through the S's. Ash Samadi just ahead. Mees right on the tail now through turn 4. He's trying to find a way. You can't go too wide through this part. And now Mees right with him. Love tries to go to the inside. He'll clear him. Just. Samadi leaves the door open to let Mies go through, but that puts him in the box seat for the run down this back straight.
Absolutely. You can see Love there, straight away being defensive, because you knew that Mies had a much better run off that last, turn 6 corner into this last corner. Trying to go for the switchback. Can he get the car rotated? He can, and he's got it. He's got overlap. So now Mies has got the great run down into turn 1.
Brilliant sequence of racing. And it started when they were trying to get past Samadi on the way down to turn 6. Christopher Mies saw the opportunity and grabbed it with both hands and moves up into second spot now. Love back to third, but plenty of lap traffic. Griffo just ahead with Michael Kokonos also in the MC Labour Audi.
It was interesting. We're just talking about lap traffic, and obviously what it seesaws the gap.
Oh! Got him. And is it going to be damage to the front of the JMEC racing car? It's enough of a hit.
That was one thing that Christopher Mies, he's not patient enough sometimes. Europeans do it their way, and that was one of them. Like, get out of my way. But I was just going to get back to that comment I was going to make. The gap seesaws, and Hoffa, he blew it out to 4.4, and then it closed down to 3.1 because of traffic. Now with all this traffic and these guys going through it, it's blown back out now to 6.4. So it does seesaw, especially when you've got these back markers.
Oh, around goes Samadi, who is in the process of going a lap down in 14th position. He'll drop back in behind Rene Gracie, and a bit of damage to the back of his Audi Sport, car number 22. And suddenly this race comes alive.
Yeah, and that'll actually have effect. As I said, these cars are so reliant on all the little winglets and everything else. So here's a replay of down into turn 6. This is Jordan Love. Oh, it just gets down the inside, but he hits that inside curve, gets a really poor exit off turn 6. And look at Christopher Mies. It's like, thank you very much. Doesn't get it done on the entry to 7, but gets it on the exit and gets that switchback, which is famous for that corner, and has a great run down into turn 1.
Classic overlap out of turn 7. Vintage Wanneroo Racing here today. And just drilled the back of the MC Labour car. And Love was lucky. He took evasive action to go to the left and not drill the back of the JMEC Audi. But still like a shark taking a bite at him.
This actually caught Christopher Mies out of surprise because he brakes so late. He knows the limits of the Audi. Oh, look at that. Shuts the door really quickly. But he knew he just got caught out because the car in front just broke early and just got caught out. And this is the spin.
Caught the tail of that with Samadi.
Samadi, yep. Turn 1. In turn 1, luckily. Oh, maybe a little bit of contact. That's Richie Stanaway, I believe. So there might have been a bit more contact with that. That's maybe the damage to the back of that Audi on that rear quarter. So this is now going to be a better true indication of lap times. Yep, there it is. So Hoffa, 54.1. Mies, 54 dead. Love, 54.5. So the two Audis up front are doing low 54s, but Christopher Mies, he's just pulling a couple of tenths every lap out of that lead.
A busy little segment of racing that was, and that's let Maxi Hoffa off the hook here. 6 seconds. Remember, that was almost 1.5 seconds a few minutes ago. And now he has a strong advantage in this race. Remember, they don't need to do any additional times. Their 87-second mandatory pit stop time. Incidentally, pit window is now open.
Again, personal best for Sector 1 for Christopher Mies. He was a tenth and a half faster than Maxi Hoffa, so it'll be interesting to see again when and you talk about the pit window being open, and again coming in early, he's the sole driver, so he can afford to come in when the opening of the pit window, sit there, does his mandatory time, and he'll resume, get back out racing again. So again, this will be interesting. Christopher Mies, big carrot in front of him with that Maxi Hoffa, and again, typical two European drivers coming out. They want to go home and say they were the better of the two.
Absolutely. Meantime, here's Brad Schumacher and Paul Stokel, who Schumacher now peels off into pit lane. So yesterday's AM winner comes in. He's got 102 seconds of mandatory pit stop time for him. The boy from Bathurst who won the AM class at Bathurst a few weeks ago. His home track. Good people from Fuchs have come on board. Kelso Electrical, one of a handful of businesses. He's up and running over there now. He's a busy man when he's not behind the wheel of the Fuchs Audi.
And this is the part where, as a driver, it feels like an eternity. It absolutely feels like you're sitting there for half an hour. I know it's only sort of 80 seconds or whatever it is, but it just feels like a half an hour wait because you're sitting there waiting, and of course it all relying on the team. The team have the stopwatch, which we just saw. So again, he'll get the call very soon to go, and then of course get back out on track. But as a driver, you heat soaked, everything inside the car's soaking, the brakes are getting heat soaked. Generally, you see the pit crew running around the car doing tyre pressures, lowering them because obviously the benefit of going back out with lower tyre pressures. But again, as I said, as a driver, it's just a frustrating time because all you want to do is get back out on the racetrack.
So Ash Samadi and Renee Gracie come into the pits as well now. Gracie with an additional 15 seconds. So Samadi, a messy couple of minutes for the 22 car. It's got the 87 seconds doing solo duties. Brett Hobson comes in now. And
you'll see this now. This will be a driver change as well. So this will be a part where they'll come in, they'll stop. And the solo drivers, there it is, unbuckling the seatbelts, get out. And of course, with the driver helper, that's a driver helper there, just resetting all the seatbelts, making it. They've got plenty of time, so it's not like they're in a big rush. And in we go. I've got also to say, it's a bit awkward getting into these cars. The GT3 cars are quite tight. They're very neat in the sense of the roll cages and everything else. But again, they've got plenty of time to get in, do the belts up, get the radio plug in, put the cool suit in.
That's a big help, having the helper there, because you know what it's like trying to lean down, doing your own belts up with the helmet on. Not easy.
Well, you can actually see there, just as a driver, again, yes, with the hands device and everything else, you just can't see down to that seat buckle. Tightening up, they've been adjusted again. Driver does the shoulder straps, because that's a personal choice. As tight as you can. Radio plug in, and that's an important thing. There he is, got the nod. So what happens there is the car controller would have talked to the driver inside the cabin. You got radio comms, and of course you're so busy doing everything else, you give the car controller a nod, say yep, we're all good.
I'll tell you what, and he just got that done in time. He's now leaving the lane. Griffo sits down in there, the sole GT4 car. Of course, exciting things with GT4 Australia starting this year as well. Another new category coming to Aussie Motorsport as he comes out right in front of Brad Schumacher, who's completing his first lap. You've got to be so careful on the out lap. Even though they've swapped tyres over, they are going to be weird for a lap or two.
Well, they will be, because you come offline and you see all that rubber on the outside of the race line. That sticks to the tyre very quickly, and then sometimes you feel like you got a puncture because you pick up all the basically rubber offline, and you get this vibration, and you actually start, your mind's playing with yourself, saying, have I got a puncture? And again, the other good thing about this category, on the dashboard, you've got a number of pages that you can scroll through as a driver. Everything's on the steering wheel, so you can access everything, paddle shift, all the adjustments and everything else. You can scroll to the page and actually give you your tyre pressure, sometimes in bar and sometimes in pressure, and then PSI, and that'll give you a quick indication. And if you do get a flat tyre in this category, it comes up with a huge warning on the dash. So although your brain's saying that you might have a flat tyre, but you just got to rely on the electronics to be able to tell you. Yes.
So now Love has fallen back into the clutches of Jamie Whincup and Richie Stanaway. Here's yesterday's race winner, Garnett Patterson, who's getting set soon to jump out and let your reigning champ Yasser Shahin, and there he is, ready to roll down in pit lane. Moving across to EMA Motorsports, where they're expanding their program this year. That's the second off-track excursion for Jaden Ojeda at the final turn. The Valente Rosso entry ran in 6th position. Of course, EMA Motorsports, world-renowned. They run all across in GT World Challenge Europe. They've got a 2-car team going on this year in Porsche Carrera Cup as well for Garnett and Chris Pither, who's back full-time in the series.
There's our leader, Maxi Hoffa. He is losing slightly his gap to Chris Vermeers. He's down to a 5-second gap now. And again, Chris Vermeers, personal best first sector. And he's actually done the fastest lap of the race a couple of laps back with a 53.80. So there's the gap, very evident. And again, these guys will wait until the very end of the pit window to come in and change over. So you got Liam Talbot jumping in the number 1, or the lead car at the moment, Audi, and you got Jeff Emery jumping into this car. So again, Jeff Emery and Liam Talbot, as I said, very much experienced in these cars, and it should be a great battle. This will be a really good battle once we do the changeover. And you got the Princes jumping into the 2 Mercedes. That's going to be also a great battle because there's a bit of a rivalry between the family, older brother and younger Prince.
Great yesterday. Prince Abu Bakr was quite impressive in practice and qualifying. He gets set down the pit lane. More pit stops still to come here. Out the window, I can see Garth Walden coming into the lane right now, while Jordan Love, as Jamie Whincup, getting closer and closer. Battle for third and fourth here on their way down towards turn 7.
Almost identical first sector times, and Love actually got slightly faster second sector time. So yeah, Gary Walden now in. They're going to do a tyre change, which you got the option to if you've got the tyre bank to be able to do it. Driver change as well.
They've got the time on their side as well to do this with 92 seconds of pit stop time. Matt Stupas getting ready there, waiting for Paul Stokel. It's a great character, Matty. The chance to meet him at Bathurst this year. Loves his motor racing and heavily invested in this GT World Challenge Australia Series. And the very handy steerer in Paul Stokel, who comes into pit lane right now from 9th position on the track. What hasn't he done in Aussie Motorsport? He was great in open wheelers back in the 90s for the Barana team.
When I was doing Formula Holden back in the day, that Paul Stokel was the guy to beat, and you know, he's got a very huge career in the sense of a lot of it. And there's Maxi Hoffa coming in, so he's going to hand it over now to Liam Talbot, and you can see there the insert that the drivers are holding. That's sort of basically mould into the seat. You can see Liam Talbot's got his, and that now, what it does is allows you to basically feel like it's suited to your body, your back, your lower back, your ribs, and allows you to be basically one in the car and feel everything what's going on. So these guys here don't have a driver helper, but again, Maxi Hoffa is happy to assist Liam Talbot getting in. And it's one of those, again, things that you go faster by going slower. If you try and rush everything, you sometimes forget, or you don't miss, or you can't line things up. So sometimes you go faster by going slower, if that makes sense.
Works for me. Ash Seawood's team, of course, preparing the Makita car.
He doesn't need a radio. You can hear him yelling, so he's very good for that.
You can hear him out the window. Stupas ready to go in the KFC Audi. Shaheen bolts into the Porsche, bottom left-hand side of your screen. Looking to make it 2 wins in as many days. Away goes Stupas, he's released. Pit lane gets busy now as the window gets closer to shutting. Of course, that Porsche having the biggest one, I think. Put the Ash Seawood team by surprise. Now Tony Bates leaves the lane. Ojeda also in, hand it over to Ross Palakis. Solid run yesterday. Even 2 for Ross Palakis. He was great yesterday on Friday during practice. Jeff Emery jumps into the J-Mech Racing Audi. Great run there by Christopher Meason. You expect that. It's one of the best GT guys in the world.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. I've actually driven with him in the 12-hour, and you know, he comes to Australia. He loves the Bathurst 12-hour. He loves that circuit, and again, he spent a lot of time in Australia, crossing the borders, and really, he's, as I said, he's an Audi factory driver. Audi tell him basically where to go, what to run, and he brings a lot of experience, and he brings a lot of knowledge of car setup and what they can do. So a team like MPC, Melbourne Performance Centre, it's very much a great advantage to having someone like him come along and actually help what goes on in Europe, and there's in the sense of testing and everything else.
Away goes Emery. They left it right till the end too. Most of those guys got in that final 60 seconds. In fact, the AAA car may have been right on the edge. Or the 10 seconds to go, maybe.
The 2 Mercedes AMGs coming together, line of stern. So Jamie and Richie Stanaway are now both out of the car. And the 2 Princes are now back in the car. So not sure who got out first. Can't quite see the number. But the 101 Mercedes back out on track, and it actually split them. So looks like the older brother, Jeffrey, Prince Jeffrey, is back out in 888. He's out in front of his younger brother. So again, as I said, a bit of a rivalry between those 2.
10 seconds, of course, between their pit stops. As we've sorted through the pit window, we can shut that now, Lounsey. That's done for this weekend's round of Fanatec GT World Challenge. As out on the track, Liam Talbot punishes the curb on his first flying lap in a Shannon's Insurance Audi, hoping to right the wrong of yesterday's first race. There's Emery. So some 10 seconds behind. Of course, he's setting the fastest lap of the race, that 53.8. early in today's race. They're great numbers to be running this late into the race, and in temperatures like this, it's quite warm today compared to the previous 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no doubt that the poor old Pirelli tyre has done a lot of miles around here, although some did do a tyre change in that period of pit stop, so they might have a bit more advantage towards the end. And there we go. This is going to be Palakis and the young Prince using all an inside curb. It's an old trick we used to do. Well, I used to run the inside curb at turn 6, which usually actually help the car rotate. It does hinder your, I suppose, exit speed, but if you've got a good tyre and you get the car to rotate, sometimes it is an advantage. And you can see in there closing well up under brakes on Palakis. So this is going to be a great battle to see how if the young Prince can find a way around.
So 5th and 6th, you can see by the LED panels on the left-hand side behind is Mike Sheargold, who jumps into the number 45 Ram Motorsport Mercedes-Benz after Garth Walden opened up the innings in that car. They're back in 12th position ahead of Kokonos, Samadi, Gracie and Mark Griffith back there in 16th position in the Soul GT4 car. So less than 20 minutes to go in this race. Talbot from Emery and Ibrahim as Lowndes stands back from the TV monitor in the commentary box.
Yeah, I saw him hit that inside curb, and you can see that the effect, it bounced the car across. And again, he used all that inside curb, which is flat there. That's fine. But you hit that inside curb at turn 5, and you can see the front of the Mercedes bounce out, and you can see how much he lost. He was right behind the 101 Mercedes of Palakis. So again, that is a huge disadvantage. Now the young Prince just got to settle down and make sure that he doesn't hit those curbs. He's got the speed. He's just got to get back onto the tail of Palakis and find a way around and just really set them up. Two good places to pass here is down into the bowl turn 6, or if not, get the drive out of it and get the run up over the hill down into turn 7.
So Palakis with Ojeda, this team continue to get stronger, don't they? They were great in the first round. And of course, a 2-car outfit coming up very soon for the balance of the year. As everybody's been through their mandatory pit stops, this is a replay of what happened down at Ash Seaward's team. Tony Bates says, get out of the way, I want to get out of here.
I laugh because I know Ash really well, and he likes to be everything down to the second. But he just was 2 seconds away from moving his foot.
Maybe that was payback for the yelling.
Maybe so, but Bates getting on with the job, and Ash will be fine. Bit of grille missing off the front of the Bates Mercedes there. Bit of contact maybe early in the race, but that's not an aero issue, but definitely not good if those little winglets you can see on the front, on the sides, right on the edge there, when you lose them, I can tell you, you lose a big advantage of the front aero or front downforce, which then, of course, creates understeer. And again, talking to some of the teams, especially the Mercedes teams, over the last couple of days, that's what they've been looking for, is to get the front of the Mercedes to turn, get it to rotate. So they've been working heavily on just trying to get the AMG Mercedes to rotate, especially out of the bowl here, and then you can get the drive out of it, up of it, this long back straight.
Chunks of Pirelli tyre peeling away from the cars. It's on the run up through the S's there through turn 2 and 3. And they'll wreak havoc in the latter stages here. You don't want to get onto that stuff, particularly around this Wanneroo Raceway. It's narrow enough as it is. The marbles will play their part, no doubt, in the closing stages. We're less than 17 minutes away from the finish line. Talbot, 13 seconds clear of Emery. Jeffrey Ibrahim runs in third spot. Tony Bates is next. Then this battle between Palakis and contact on the way up to turn 4 between he and the 88 Mercedes, and significant damage.
Now you've got to be careful that that damage there, although it doesn't look bad, but a lot of the radiator and everything else is behind it. There's all the sand coming out of the under tray of Palakis there, and that young Prince, as I said, he just needed to settle down. He was hitting curbs and doing other things. He just made an error here under brakes, over the crest of 3 into 4, and bang, turns him around. And then there was a second impact there. Bang.
Oh. So will have hurt that left rear tyre on the 101. Will there be enough contact to maybe cut it down? We'll keep an eye.
Well, the one thing I can tell you about the Mercedes, they are like a Sherman tank. They are built pretty strong.
They've got their limits, like every car.
Yeah, we saw yesterday, this is almost this secondary contact here, which we just there.
Ooh.
That was very not the way it hit, but the rear wheel impact was sort of similar to Liam Talbot yesterday, and we saw what happened to him. So, well, yeah, very interesting to see if these two cars still circulate around. There's Roland Dane. He won't be happy with that. He knows that the young Prince would have had speed, just had to find a way around at the moment. And then back to Liam Talbot now out front. I just saw it. We had a shot of Liam Talbot a couple of laps ago. He had a lot of wheel work going on down into turn 6, and again, you can see their hands moving quite a lot on the steering wheel over the turn 5 down into turn 6 now. Again, he's just got to make sure that he doesn't make the same mistake that he made yesterday, which he overshot the last corner, turn 7, and ended up going off track through the sand and then rejoining. So he's got a comfortable gap. He's actually opening it up. It's now up to 15.2 second gap to Jeff Emery. So he's got some speed in that car. He just now needs to bring it home with just almost 14.5 minutes to go.
Watching Yasser Shaheen was 2 seconds a lap quicker than the cars ahead on the previous couple of laps. So keep an eye on yesterday's race winner. Well, on the screens it shows 40 seconds away from the front. There's still 14 minutes of racing, and we haven't seen a safety car all weekend. It's here, isn't it? Somewhere?
It is here. And we've actually been quite lucky, because normally you go off track here.
Yeah.
It is one of these places that you definitely never come back from. And again, you can see young Prince just struggling to get the turn of that Mercedes into turn 1. The bump didn't help, but again, with all that front left-hand corner of the Mercedes literally hanging off it, that's going to have a huge effect with the downforce and that front aero balance.
So looking from the back of Mike Bailey's 96 Mercedes with 4th place, Tony Bates. Bailey back in 11th position after Brett Hobson started this car here today. And just ahead of Sheargold. As the field spread themselves out here. 16 seconds. It's a solid margin, isn't it, between Talbot and Emery? And like yesterday, in the last few minutes, we really started to see everybody compress. Well, that is a big margin.
It is, but Liam's like, he's cycling around this track at a 55.1, so he's not much slower than what we saw Maxi Hoffa, but again, he was a good half second faster than Jeff Emery on that last lap, so he is increasing that gap. It's now up to 16.4 with 13 minutes to go. So again, Liam Talbot now just got to be smart, just going to bring it home. They'll clearly get the victory if he can keep it on the black stuff.
As we said, next round heading to Phillip Island and Victoria. Expecting to see the Grove Motorsport team, the Porsche back there for that round. Adrian Dietz and the Lamborghini. Also expected to head on down to the famous island track there in Victoria. Give us a field of at least 20 cars.
Yeah, I did see on the entry list that Stephen Grove and Brenton, his son, were going to contest this weekend. And I saw Stephen in the pits yesterday, and I actually said to him, I asked him, I saw your name on the entry list, but why aren't you out there? And he says, the car landed in Australia. We just couldn't get it out of customs or quarantine. So the car is here. He said we'll ship it to Phillip Island. I think they're going to miss actually Phillip Island and do the next round. So right, bit of a shame. The car landed from Asia, but didn't quite get out of the docks.
That's a bit of a problem, that one.
See the damage there, heavily damaged front Mercedes there. And again, you can see the front left dragging a little bit. And again, what that does is it actually closes the gap, the air gap, from the underneath splitter, which you need a bit of a gap to get the airflow. So again, he's going to have a very much of an understeering Mercedes balanced car now, especially turning right-handers. That's going to have a huge effect on the balance of that car now. And look, hopefully he can bring it home. Although in saying that, I've just looked up into the timing boards and he's got a 15-second penalty added now for that incident.
Well, that's going to drop him right down. Well, maybe in a 7th position with everybody from Brad Schumacher. A lap down on our screens at the moment, but that's a tough penalty. If you're going to cop damage, you'd rather have it here, like a track like the Island, where it's fast sweeping corners, or Bathurst.
Oh, 100%. Like, anytime you lose any part of the aerodynamics of these cars makes a big difference, especially as a driver in the field. Because you get a lot of confidence, and again, the strength of the Audi has been under brakes, and that damage on the front of that Mercedes would hurt that area as well. So, yeah, look, no doubt that, again, as I said, hopefully Brick gets it home. He'll definitely lose a spot, maybe two, but it's those. You're right. If it was a Phillip Island or a Bathurst, especially at a high speed, having the downforce that these cars generate, would almost, I'd have to say, that it would create more damage by splitting that front open more.
Oh, second place, Emery trying to get past Michael Kokonos here as that gap starts to increase significantly now. Out to 20 seconds, first to second, under 9 seconds back to Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim in the 888 Mercedes. And another 11 seconds back to Tony Bates. Yasser Shaheen still charging. He's after Tony Bates here. And was lapping still a couple of seconds quicker than the guys ahead in that Ben Motorsport Park Porsche.
It's only 2.2 of a second between the two of them, Bates and Yasser Shaheen. So Yasser's done a great job. And again, yesterday we saw he had the opening stint of the race yesterday. He did a really good job. He was really smart, sat behind the lead cars for a time, knowing that he had a shorter pit stop. So Yasser's doing a fantastic job. And again, another driver that spends a lot of time. There it is there, Bates and Yasser Shaheen. And again, what we also saw yesterday, as I said, that Mercedes was strong on the tyre life at the end, where the Porsche seemed to fade away, but it looks like the reverse today. Yasser trying to set up a nice little exit there of turn 7, gets a good run. Get down the inside of turn 1 here. Bates struggled a little bit to get the Mercedes, and he's done it. He's gone up the inside.
With a bit of contact from the Makita Mercedes on the door of the EMA Porsche. So he goes up another spot. And into 4th now, 44 seconds away from Liam Talbot, but 13 seconds away for a potential podium.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much speed Yasser can now produce. Again, with the aerodynamics of these cars, they do get a little bit of aero wash as well. So trying to get past the car quickly is really important. As I mentioned about the tyre wear getting hotter, brakes getting hotter, and you said drivers getting hotter, which they do, but it's also that ground effects. And you can see there, Yasser set it up coming off that last corner, did a really nice job. Bates there just try to squeeze him out right at the end. A little bit of contact side to side, but no damage done. But again, yeah, I'll be really keen to see what Yasser can do. He's got a bit of a deficit for Prince Jeffrey, but with 8 minutes to go, or just over 8 minutes, be interesting to see if he can close that gap.
Leader clears Ross Palakis to put him a lap down now. So that's 7th position on the circuit after the contact between he and Ibrahim a little bit earlier in this race. It's Brad Schumacher going down the inside of Mark Griffith. Will stay with Mike Sheargold. Matt Stupas just behind in the KFC Audi. They're running back in 9th position, but only 8 seconds away between those two right now. It's a battle for position. Here's our second place man, 22 seconds behind our leader, Liam Talbot. Jeff Emery behind the wheel.
And there's 3rd, Prince Jeffrey. He's doing a really nice job. Jamie did a really good job in it at the beginning of this race. And then there's Yasser Shaheen. So he's now come across the line. It's sort of stagnated around a 13.7 second gap between Prince Jeffrey and Yasser. So 3rd and 4th are sort of basically now all settled down. And again, it's seesawing a little bit with traffic. So that last time around, Emery was he was a couple of tenths faster than Liam Talbot. And you can see now this is where it gets a little bit more interesting in the sense for me, because with that crash damage and again the strength of that front bar has obviously been affected by that hit, and it's rubbing on that tyre. So as he's doing more laps, it's become more fragile, and he doesn't want to have any more contact here. He wants to make sure he keeps it clean. That's Bates in front of him. So this is actually 4th position. See that tyre rubbing on the guard there, or the guard rubbing on the tyre. So every lap he puts tension and stress on those components of that bumper. Again, a bit of tyre rubbing. It's going to become more fragile.
Needs just to hold on for another 6.5 minutes. 5th and 6th you're watching now in this final race of the weekend in Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. The smoking 888 Mercedes with that tyre rubbing after the contact between he and Palakis.
And the other thing that will happen in the bunker, in the pit lane, is they'll be monitoring the tyre pressures, because that tyre rubbing will generate more temperature. So you don't want to have a tyre, especially a left front tyre around here, deflating, especially like if coming down into this line right now. Bates sort of leaves the door open, but then shuts it very quickly. So Young Prince is in no mood to hang around. He's flashing the lights.
Does that really work?
Flashing the lights? Well, it's one of those things that, again, you just try and do it to distract the driver in front. And you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, you know, it's one of those things, if you don't ask, you don't get. So he's going to be asking that question all the time, just flashing the headlights, trying to put baits off his game.
You can see he's definitely nursing the car through the corners. It was noticeable there through turn 7, the second car of the shot. So he can sense that he just need to get this car home now. But he's still got plenty of pace.
He has, and right behind these guys is Liam Talbot, the leader of the race. So, you know, you've got to make sure that, you know, they're aware. Oh, he's not more contact.
And this time, the Makita Mercedes keeps off the wall, just glances it. This weekend here has been one of the most bizarre weekends when it comes to incidents. We haven't had cars get stuck in the stand. He kept that off the wall. That was a high-speed exit. Here it is on the replay. So keep an eye on the second car and shot, and just into the back.
Oh, that was very quick exit. Sand just caught the edge of the sand, done a fantastic job. I said to you over here that it's generally when you end up in the sand pit here, you don't get out of it, but that Mercedes, as I said, like a Sherman tank, it just barreled its way back across onto the track. So the young Prince, he's trying to take the front off this Mercedes. He got the left-hand side, now he's got the right-hand side, so I'm not sure. I know Roland Dane back in the bunker will not be happy because, as I said, he generally puts up with one little incident, but 2 incidents and with the same drivers.
And it was in front of the leader, who just put him a lap down as well. So Talbot is shutting this race down now with 26 seconds of margin. Back to Jeff Emery. I've never seen a car go off in that section of the course either.
No, like Bates had a little bit of a wider line through that mid part of turn 4, which I think, again, the young Prince probably thinking, oh, he's left the door open, but there's no passing opportunity. You can't go side by side across turn 5. So, again, more contact. But as you said, incredible the way that the sand trap here definitely slows the car up, because you saw Bates' speed when he exited the circuit. He's lucky to get the top edge of that sand trap and arrested the speed. And again, just a little nudge on the concrete wall. As you can see here now, Liam Talbot trying to find a way around. And for Liam Talbot, like, I was watching his lap times. He just did a mid-55. The lap before, I think he did a low 55. And the lap before that, he did a 55 dead. So even though he's got a 27-second gap over Jeff Emery, he's not slowing down. He's just sort of cycling around and just pushing himself, which in one hand, I think it's really good as a race driver. It keeps you concentrating.
Keeps you motivated.
Because you're basically just doing your same brake markers, same turn-in points. You're basically doing lap to lap to lap to lap just to keep yourself concentrating. If you start falling off a half a second a lap, or the team saying, all right, just pull it back to a 56-second lap, your mind does sometimes wander, and that's when you're more susceptible to making a mistake. So, again, a credit to Liam Talbot to just keep punching those lap times out.
Looking good to match yesterday's total of laps. He did 60 yesterday. At the moment, 57 in the books with 2 minutes and 20 remaining. Here's our second place man running on his own out there now, Jeff Emery, who took over from Christopher Mees, who started from the pole here yesterday. And settling for second here now. The pace of that Shannon's Insurance Audi, too strong, as he's lapped everybody up to 5th position now. Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim in the battle-wearied 88 Mercedes-Benz. Brad Schumacher is up ahead of Ross Palakis while that's been going on as well. So looking for another AM win today in the Fuchs Audi. Coming up towards Matt Stupas here. Just needs to tiptoe his way around.
Oh, Jeff Emery would be really nice. You know, I drove with Jeff Emery at the 12 hour this year, and the one thing that Jeff does, he's somewhat a gentleman. He will wait his time. He knows he's got a bit of space. He's got a 6.6 lead over Prince Jeffrey, and he'll just wait to make sure that he gets a pass done cleanly, which he's done now, the inside of the last corner. So that's, you know, I can put a bit of, I suppose, tick on Jeff doing the right thing.
So this was Schumacher on Palakis from a long way back, and Palakis just leaving the door as far wide open as he could down there at Co-op Corner, the basin here at Wanneroo Raceway. He puts the Fuchs car up into 5th position outright. It will be 5th outright when Ibrahim gets the penalty at the end of this as well.
You asked me yesterday if you thought the Audis, if the Audis would be strong around here, and I said yes, because of the configuration. They're a mid-engine, so the weight, and you look at the Mercedes, as I said, long bonnet, engine sits over the front axle, and you'd think that it'd create more front turn with that weight at the front, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, and, you know, again, the driver sits really far back in these Mercedes configured AMG GT3s. I said to you yesterday that I thought the Audi would be strong around here because of the configuration, the way it is. The V10, it's got a really nice, sweet, linear power. The way it comes on is really nice, but again, the configuration, the Audis generally have really good front turn, and that's been able to come into full effect here. And as you said, although it's a small track, not like a Phillip Island or a Bathurst where you need a lot of good high-speed balance. It's good, still flowing track this, but turn 7, and the Audis are definitely stronger under brake, so they have proven to be, again, a car to use and win around this circuit.
So last lap now for Liam Talbot. He can forget about Saturday. And the Audi Customer Sport team, fingers crossed, it's only a 2.4 kilometre course, but he's dominated this one here at Wanneroo Raceway. Gaps out to nearly 30 seconds between he and Jeff Emery, multi-time Australian GT champion. We'll have to settle for second today. Audi 1 and 2 with Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim running in third. That'll be your podium. Yasser Shahin fourth, but 8 seconds away from a podium position today. They were the winners yesterday in the Porsche, but today it's about this brilliant driver who's done it all across the world in GT racing. He was a Pro-Am Porsche Carrera Cup champion a couple of years ago. And Liam Talbot picks up the win here. Race number 2 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. And aren't they happy about it?
There they are there. There's Maxi Hoffa, Chris Mears. You can see the height difference, but, you know, again, for those two have done a fantastic job. Again, this category with the Pro and the Pro-Ams, it's about the combination of your weakest link. And today, Liam Talbot got the job done, and Maxi Hoffa. They definitely had good pace at the start of the race, and when Liam got into the car, as I said, I was watching his lap time, just keep punching out those low 55s, and you know, brought it home with a good, healthy 28-second gap over Jeff Emery, which is now crossing the line. There's Prince Jeffrey, and Yasser Shahin will take the 4th, and Yasser Shahin is the last of the cars on the lead lap. So Liam Talbot was really, and there's the MPC team, really excited. So Liam Talbot, hand out the window. Be delighted to bounce back with the performance of yesterday.
Another fantastic result for the Shannon's Insurance team. So Talbot and Hoffa, the winners here today from Emery and Mees. Jeffrey Ibrahim home for 3rd position today. Yasser Shahin finishes in 4th ahead of Abu Bakr, but Ibrahim will get that penalty added to as well. Another 15 seconds here in this final race. Safety car free, both races. Well done to everybody. Had a fair bit of incidents and accidents, but we managed to keep the race green for the entire 60 minutes. And the Shannon's Insurance team pick up the win. Congratulations to Liam Talbot and Maxi Hoffa, winners of race 2 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge. They're heading back to the pits, and Jess, we're building up to race 8 of the Repco Supercars Championship here today in the West.
We certainly are. Thanks, Matt. That's what's coming up next. But we're here sweating on the deliberation from the stewards. If you are just tuning into our live coverage here from Perth on Fox Sports, we've had a hearing here this morning, Gartanda, relating to the on-track action that we saw between Brodie Kostecki and Shane Van Gisbergen. So just recap for us why the stewards have been debating this particular incident.
Yeah, so it was this move for the win in yesterday's race. And at the end of the race yesterday, after everything had settled down, Erebus had asked for an investigation into that incident. They were denied. They said, no need. Driving Standards Observer Craig Baird said, no, we don't need to. That was okay. So they've actually now gone back, which you're allowed to do, and formally protested, which then does instigate the investigation process. So it's a formal protest. There's a hearing going on. They held it after, well, they're holding it as we speak, after qualifying today. So it's really difficult because you've got a team that are sort of sweating on a result of yesterday. You're in the middle of effectively a legal battle. You've got to go out and qualify for today's races and put yesterday behind you. Then go get your lawyer's hat back on again and go back into the stewards' room. So there's been plenty going on this morning. So yeah, we're still awaiting to see what happens with the outcome of that one.
They've done a pretty good job because they qualified first and fourth.
That's right.
So they've come out of that. I'm going to send them to more stewards' hearings.
So the drivers have actually had to appear before the stewards to, I guess, put their case forward today. How does it work?
Yeah, for sure. So under that circumstance, because they were the ones that are instigating effectively a protest, Brodie would have been in there and he would have gone through what he felt was the right and wrong things and the story that he was rolling out. Because what happened, remember, the bit that we haven't covered for you in the rendition so far is that he was actually given a bad sportsmanship flag. It was told at that point that he was blocking too aggressively. Brodie's point of view with blocking so aggressively was because Shane was running into him so hard. So that the level of vigour between the two of them was fantastic. I mean, we love it. We thought it was one of the best races of the year. But essentially, when Brodie's walked into the room there today, he's got to say, well, the reason that I was doing this was this was the reasoning. And the second part is, I think the pass was a little overzealous by Shane Van Gisbergen, and the reason is X, Y, Z. So he would have appeared for sure.
And so what are the stewards looking for, Garth? What sort of evidence are they looking at to make this decision? Because as soon as the decision drops, we'll have it for you right here on Fox Sports. But what are they actually contemplating? What is the information that they have to make this decision?
Well, they have data from both the cars. They have all the onboard telemetry and the data which they can analyse, much like all the race teams do up and down pit lane. So they'll have the data from both the cars, which has the steering input, the throttle input, and importantly, the brake input. So they'll have that from both cars. They'll have vision coming out of both cars. Obviously, they'll have the onboard cameras that we use for broadcast, but they also have judicial cameras that are focused solely on solving these issues. And then they'll hear from both parties. So they'll hear from Brodie Kostecki, and Shane Van Gisbergen will put his point of view across as well. So then the stewards gather all that information, they deliberate on that, and then they come up with a solution, an answer, and that's what we're waiting on now. So yes, both drivers would have had to go in there separately and basically run through probably the last 2 or 3 laps that led up to that moment, and then explain in that bite-sized moment, that nanosecond of the race,